welcome to the Sunday show with Broadcast Team Alpha. I am so excited. We are bringing you cutting edge conversations while exploring the quantum possibilities. We are Broadcast Team Alpha. I'm your co-host, Nori Love, along with my other co-hosts, the renowned Aage Nost, and our production genius, Tom Schaefer. And I'm so excited. Did you ever have a dessert that was so amazing that you just wanted to either like inhale your dinner or skip it? That's how I'm feeling. So if I sound a little bit rushed, it's because of our guest. Our guest is so amazing today. I'm so excited. But let me just do a little bit of housekeeping. There's the chat room. You can listen to this on YouTube. You can join in on the chat room. Tom is manning the chat room today, and we may be taking telephone calls at the end of the show toward the second half. And if we do that, we'll let you know. The number is 202-559-7943. You probably didn't have a pen, so we're going to offer that phone number again. But you can check us out at broadcastteamalpha.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see all of the things that we're doing. Now, here's the dessert. My friend is coming on with us today. He's not just my friend. He is a renowned coach, mentor, entrepreneur, businessman, speaker. He said, just tell people why you want me on. I want him on because he's one of the most brilliant people that I know. I wanted him to join us today because when it comes to law of attraction, and he was in the movie The Secret, I don't know anybody who can talk about it and explain it and help you get it and understand it better than the way that he offers it. He's funny. That's why I wanted him to join us today. He's sweet, but don't tell anybody. He's an amazing cook. He's a really, really good friend. And he's the featured teacher in The Secret. He has written the book Wealth Beyond Reason, Follow Your Passion, Find Your Power. Without any further ado, I just want to introduce Bob Doyle. Hey, Bob.
Hi, Nori. Well, that was just
Hi.
ridiculously sweet. My teeth are rotting out right now.
Well, okay, so let's get some floss. Everybody get some floss. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think full-on water pick is in order.
Wow, water pick. God, it's so good to talk with you. My goodness.
It's been a long time since we did something like this together, and it's great to be doing it again.
It is. So just for some background for everybody, Bob had a certification program, and I certified as a boundless living law of attraction coach. That was my first law of attraction certification program, and it, of course, was pivotal in my life. And Bob has gone on to do amazing things. He's a celebrity coach and speaker, and he's doing all kinds of new things. So just to dial it back a little bit, Bob, and then we can go into all the new stuff. I was wondering if maybe because we've been talking about the law of attraction, the vibrational law, the laws of the universe. I was just wondering if somehow we could talk about the practical application of law of attraction, like law of attraction for dummies-ish, or user-friendly quantum mechanics, some way to get it so people can use law of attraction in their life. And when I thought of all of the things that people could relate to, and it pertains to everything, I just thought money would be fun to talk about.
Well, okay, so we can do that.
Okay.
Let me back up a bit because,
Yes.
I have been teaching this now for about almost 20 years. And where I put my attention on how I teach it has shifted dramatically from when I did. And I want to share that just to set the context for the rest of our conversation. I really used to be into teaching the science of it, really spent because what I was trying to do was bridge the gap for the people who would normally never look at this conversation, think it was too woo-woo or whatever, and say, look, there's science behind this. Now will you listen? Right? That kind of thing. And I feel like that was my place in it. But over the past few years, I've been doing a lot more coaching, with actual people instead of sending digital programs out and things like that. And when you're really working with people and hearing what they're stopped by, and money being one of them, and what they're passionate about, it becomes, being in my position becomes completely different. And So I approach this from not just the scientific reason, because here's the thing: we're all doing this. We're all learning about this because we want to create a life we love. That's the bottom line. We want to be we're creating a feeling
Yes.
by learning all of this. We think we want to attract the stuff, and we're learning all the nuances. We're trying to learn all the tricks and all the different things. And believe me, I was right there in that conversation with a whole bag of tricks. But the more that I get intentional about, my own life and my own vision and working with these people, I'm realizing that the thing that is most important is not any of the techniques, not any even of the science. You don't have to know the science to make it work. There's one thing you have to know, and that is, who do you want to be in this world? And how does that feel? Right? Like, and from that
Exactly.
space, that's when you can start to create a vision that involves things and circumstances. But without knowing who you are first, all of the other stuff, all the other exercises could be complete time wasted. And that's how it
Right.
occurs for a lot of people.
Right. And I love that you're backing this up for me, because I did have my little sticky notes that said, let's talk about intention and taking, you can't go anywhere until you know what you want. And if there's anything that being in your program, the Boundless Living certification, that was huge part of what I learned with you, was to get clear on, who am I, what do I want, and how do I want to show up in life. And I love that, because once you do that, there were a million times, maybe not a million, maybe, a couple thousand times, I would go, is it my time to play big? Or, what does playing big really, really mean? And I couldn't even answer that or make a decision about that until I worked with you and found out, what is my vision?
Hmm.
How do I want to show up in life? So how do people, I mean, I know I've got, lists and things people could do, but do you have like a on their feet, something that people could do to begin to get into the feeling place of, where they could begin to see what their vision might look like? Because,
Well, again, so
yeah.
yes, but it starts with, here's the thing: if you're not clear on who you are, who you want to be in the world, then your vision is also going to not be clear. You're going to
Mhm.
base it on historic things that you think you should have wanted, like the more money. It's not that more money isn't part of your vision, but it's like, what's the energy driving that in you? That's very important. Like,
Right.
if you can't attach to it, if you don't understand why you want that money or why you want that house, then it's just this nebulous sort of thing. There's you got nothing in the game really, and it's not in alignment with who you are. So understanding who you are first is what I'm saying will inform a more accurate vision that comes to you effortlessly without you having to try to if you have to try to figure out what your
Yes.
vision is, then
Yes.
then it's because you aren't clear on who you are yet. When
Right.
that becomes clear, then your vision can, what supports you being that. Trying to do that otherwise it's frustrating, as a lot of people can probably attest to.
It is frustrating, and that's where, although The Secret was amazing and it's still amazing, that's where I think a lot of people got equally as frustrated with The Secret, because, this is the starting place, and you can start in the middle, but like you said, it's going to be frustrating, and you're going to meet with contrast, you're going to meet with resistance until you get back to the first building block. Who are you, and what do you want? How do you want to show up in the world?
Yeah. And look, most people skip it completely because they're not understanding the gravity of it. But energetically, if you're not clear on who you want to be, you're always going to be sending out all these scattered signals. You're probably living in some sort of mode of putting out fires or problem solving or something like that. You've got no real vision because you don't know who you are yet. So you're just looking at what's wrong, and that's what's happening. So your thoughts are all over the place. You're sending out, from a quantum point of view, from a law of attraction point of view, you're sending out all kinds of crazy mixed signals. There's nothing that the universe has a chance to lock into in terms of, showing you consistency or a result in your thinking. And so it just shows up this way. And it's
Right.
because you don't yet know what you even want to focus on because you don't know who you are yet.
That's good. And that's when life looks like Groundhog Day, right? You're like, no, I didn't create this. I don't want this. I don't want this. But if we look at what is going on in our life, if we look at the way our life is taking shape, that will tell us whether we're clear on who we are and what we want or not.
Yeah, it will inform it. Hopefully, it will inform us to modify what we're saying about ourselves or
Mhm.
how we're defining ourselves. And let me make it clear, because this is something that a lot of people do get stuck on. They feel like they've got one purpose on the planet, or they have to figure, like, it's not about figuring out who you are, it's deciding.
I
You can
love that.
change it any day. You could be, just this funny, outgoing person if you want to, and then the next day, if you want to try on being an introvert and see what that feels like, you're totally fine to do that. You can be an author, you can be a musician. It just depends on where you put your energy and how much time you spend on what your commitment to that. There's no one way of being. So if you're stuck on trying to figure out who you are, stop. Just decide who you want to be. What
Right.
feels good, run that movie in your mind. And if it excites you, just start moving in alignment with that character you've created in your movie.
I love that. I love that. And it always goes back to the feeling, right? It always goes back to the feeling because if we're feeling badly, or if we're feeling confused, or if we're feeling angry all the time or frustrated, that's our inner, our inner person that really wants to express themselves, saying, "Excuse me, you're kind of, not expressing me right now." I'm not sure if I'm painting that picture accurately, but do you agree with that?
Well, all of those emotions, obviously emotions need to be expressed and so on, but a lot of these emotions, like anger that holds on too long, and all of those, these are based on we're making a decision to hold on to them. We've created a meaning about them, and then we've got an idea of how long, based on the meaning we make, we should be angry about something or upset about something, maybe forever, maybe for a week, whatever. But it's all made up. It's all made up. All of it is a thing happened. That's it.
Yes,
A thing
yes.
happened, and then we made it mean something, and we said, all right, well, I'm going to let this affect me negatively, and I'm going to hang on to it for a while. The thing is again, clarify, and hopefully we all know this, there's nothing wrong with negative emotions. They're there for a reason. We have them for a reason, but they're to guide us back on path, that they're not something that we should attach to, glom on to, and identify with, which is what so many people do.
Yes. Well, we're kind of taught that. And one of my biggest lessons was with grief. I recognized that I was doing grief the way that I was taught to do grief by my family. And when I was doing grief, with a very powerful loss, in air quotes, um, I recognized that I could do it differently, that I didn't have to express it the way that my family said I should express it. And I didn't have to wear black, right, for the rest of my life. And I didn't have
Right.
to be, yeah, I didn't have to be unhappy. And I chose to do my mother's death like, 180 degrees differently than I would have. And that's our choice. And I love that. I love that.
It really, that's a powerful example of a powerful distinction, in that no matter how quote unquote societally appropriate a thing is, if it's about bringing you, like, you necessarily have to feel negative emotions, then you have to look, where's this coming from? There's no logic here. This is an agreement that we as a society have made, that we should be this angry or this sad or whatever, but we get to choose that if we want to. We can be free of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I even recognized, having a judgment about other people, like, oh, well, my father, started dating somebody way too early. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's not true. That's not true. I mean, he was, thank God, at 80 something years old, he was exercising his choice to be what he wanted to be in that moment. And I love that. But so my question is, and it may be the question of other people, what about the things that we're secretly thinking, right? That we don't recognize that we're thinking, that are playing out in our life? How do we uncover them, besides coming to you and, spending a half of a day with you, or, 6 weeks of coaching, which
Right.
I highly recommend.
Well, so well, thanks for that. Well, look, it's going to show up in your experience. I mean, it shows up in your resistance. It shows up in the negative thoughts. I mean, if you want to know where you're stuck, I mean, just pay attention to your emotions and see where you're triggered. And then if you have the right tool set, EFT or other release techniques that you may or may not have talked about on this show, then you can hopefully deal with uh, that feeling, that negative emotion. But again, a lot of times I'm finding that people are getting really hooked on these techniques and tools, and they're making it like dependent on that, or they're looking for problems that they don't need to look for anymore, because they've been introduced to this concept of resistance. It's really like the real goal here is if you want to become somebody else, then you become that somebody else fully, and you don't give any more credence to what you were before. You don't have to point to your old beliefs. You don't have to say how you were ruled by it. You don't have to acknowledge it at all. And because every time you do, every time you go back and shift into that space, you give up a little bit of your power in the now. You want to become something fully. And here's the thing, if you do this, the law of attraction is just going to work automatically. You don't even have to think about it. You don't have to do a vision board. You don't have to do anything unless the vision board supports you in, holding that space of who you are and holding that vision. And that's what those tools are designed to do. They're designed to keep you in alignment with a certain feeling. If those tools or techniques or whatever you're doing aren't doing that, well, you're wasting your time.
Right, right. And we can rewrite our past, right? Because part of what we're taught is easy for me to say. Part of what we're taught is to keep lamenting the past, right? Keep that alive. But when we begin to choose to be something else, to be, a different expression of who we are, we can rewrite our past in order to let it go. And I did that, and you went through all of that stuff with me. My past, would make Oprah cry, but I rewrote my past, and as a result of that, I don't even know if you know, Bob. 2 years ago, I found my birth family, and literally, I called my birth family in right during QSEA with Christy Whitman, and
Hmm.
during quantum healing with Evelyn. I called my birth family in, and they showed up. Right? So now I went from being an adopted only child to having this huge family and 6 siblings. So that is a perfect example of what you're talking about, because I chose to let go of lamenting my past. I rewrote history that didn't include that past, and now I have a whole new life.
Right. There's nothing noble about hanging on to negative feelings because they're quote unquote true, or because other people would agree with them, or so say. There's nothing about that makes any sense. That it's the same with guilt. It's like
Yeah.
guilt, it serves no purpose. It's holding you prisoner. You let it go. You do what you need to do, and then once you've done everything you can do, you let it go, because you are penalizing yourself forever
Yes.
for something. And it's really just a decision. It's just a thought in your head, is all guilt is. And vibrationally, in terms of law of attraction, it's wreaking havoc on what you can attract, because if you don't feel worthy,
Mhm.
then you won't allow it. But here's the thing that I just really want people to get, and you hear it all the time, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah. Right.
You are already worthy, and you
Yes.
already deserve. And let me tell you something, it has nothing to do with anything you've done or not done in the past, or any of that. And it's because we exist. Look, if everybody understands that the universe is this huge ocean of energy, right, of which we are a part, we're not separate. If I think we're pretty much on board, probably the people who listen to this show are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And 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 the universe, we know it's ever expanding. This is something that we know about it, and we can see it in the growth cycle on our planet. That it just life just keeps springing forth. It just keeps springing forth. It's the nature of the universe, God, source energy, to expand, right? We are part of that, and we get to experience that expansion because of the fact that we have been given the gift of physicality and emotion and passion, and just all of our senses, and all of it. We get to experience that ever expanding creation process. We're part of it, and we're creating it with our thoughts.
Yes.
That's what's imprinting this and creating our experience. Our consciousness is creating our entire experience, and we're doing it with our thoughts. So, and all of our thoughts matter. So
Yes.
so those ones that you're hiding, the ones that you're pushing down, the ones with the limitations that keep coming up, they are having a definite impact. They're preventing you from being able to literally arrange matter in front of you in a consistent way so that you can live into it.
So,
And so that's why it's so important that you commit to being somebody who is not ruled by their story, who has no attachment to making anything else or anybody else wrong, or putting blame, or giving reasons why. You're a new empowered creator starting from this moment on, and you make all the rules from here,
so
because
from
that's what you're here to
first
do.
Yes.
from our present position in life, then changing our thinking only is not really enough. We must also change the subconscious mind programs and probably feed it with emotion, vivid, colorful pictures, and gratitude.
Absolutely. All
Yeah.
of these things, like if you read the work of like Neville Goddard, for example, he really, I would recommend everybody go back and revisit this if you haven't. The languaging is a little dated, so it can be kind of difficult to get through, but it talks to the essence of this whole process is literally just feeling it as if it is, you know. And then if you read Science of Getting Rich, it talks a little bit more about how we're impressing, you know, thought into this thinking substance, which actually creates it's basically quantum physics in other language.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, it's so yes, it's more than just, you know, thinking. It is putting those emotions in and feeling it on every sensory level, and you know, depending on what you're reading, it you know, specific times at night as you're going to sleep, as you're waking up, when your mind is more suggestive, during a meditative state. These just the things we've heard over and over again, but there's a reason we've heard them, and it's because that's exactly how you do it, and we overcomplicate it. We so overcomplicate it with all these techniques and different things. And oh, did I get this wrong? Well, how many times should I do it a day? And blah, blah, blah. It's our natural state. But we're so fragmented with our thinking, we can't hold a thought or a vision for more than 5 minutes without getting derailed somewhere. And we wonder why our experience of reality is so chaotic.
Exactly. Exactly. And I love the words that you used. You said our thoughts literally arrange matter and impressing thoughts into this thinking thing. So, you know, my playful, have fun visualization is like my cosmic cookie cutter. You know, I like if the universe and, you know, that thinking thing that we impress our thoughts into, is like magic cookie dough, and you're a baker, so like magic sparkly cookie dough. You know, I'm taking my thoughts in the form of this cookie cutter, and I am holding that vision by using my cookie cutter, right? But you have to think about the cookie cutter in order to stay focused, in order to use it.
Yeah, whatever brings you into that feeling, you know. But in most of the visualization that I'm really recommending that people do, it's got to be about that embodiment. You know, when you've got a vision for who you're being and what you're doing in this vision, you've got to be like you're not looking at it on a movie screen. You're in it, right? So if you were to touch something in this vision, you'd feel it with your hand. You see, if you were to look in front of you, you'd see your hands in front of you. You see the other person. You try and get all the senses engaged, and you live it as clearly as you can, so that it becomes so realistic that it's jarring when you open your eyes, right? Like it was like, oh yeah,
Yes.
right, I forgot. Because look, that's how we've been told over the years, even in The Secret. This is how we've been told to do it. And I believe that most people, they do like a 3-minute meditation and they throw some visualization of it in there, and then they get back to their day. And I'm saying, we're talking about changing, like making energetic events happen. We have to hold it for a little bit longer. We can't, that has to be our predominant thought for that to be our predominant experience of reality. We can't have, unrealistic expectations on this. We will get back what we put in.
Exactly. Exactly. Do you feel like taking a phone call, Bob? We actually have somebody that called in.
I'm fine.
Yeah. Let's see. Um, and I think it's a little. It takes a little more focus in this moment in time, because we have all of these screens, right? We have Siri, we have all, Alexa, we have so many things that are pulling at our attention. So we have to make the conscious decision, just like we choose how we're going to show up in the world. We need to choose to focus, right? We need to make it more important than anything else.
Definitely. Let me give you a shortcut for this whole visualization thing, and I'm getting this directly from the Neville Goddard stuff. When you're visualizing, rather than thinking of all the details of the thing being fulfilled, because what happens when you do that is your brain starts to try to fill in, how did this happen? And that's not your job.
Right.
Not your job. So what you really focus on is an event that happens after the fulfillment of that, something that could only happen afterwards. So one little thing that you could focus on, something that maybe something that excuse me, I got my throat, that you could be saying thank you for the receipt of something, rather than seeing the something and all the details where your mind wanders off. You just
Wow.
focus on that. So that way instead of trying to visualize all the details of a scene, focus on something that is one event, one moment in time, one sentence that would happen that would imply that all of that's happened, and focus on the feeling that you're feeling there. You can run that over and over and over and over and over again many, many times in even just 1 minute. And that's
Wow.
and that's the feeling that you're wanting anyway. All of that other stuff that you're building is to try to create that feeling, and you can get it concise into one little event
That's
that
that's
implies it.
that's amazing. And my imagination just exploded with that. So that would be like going to the store to buy the cabinet to put my Oscar in, right? Thank you for the cabinet to put my Oscar in. I didn't focus on getting the Oscar, right? But I'm getting the cabinet. Is that kind of
Right.
what you're saying?
Yes, yes. Yeah, it took me just a second to catch
And
up with
then
that
you're
horse,
already for
but
stage 2.
was that
Then she's all ready for stage 2.
right? Right.
That's funny. Yeah, so cull that down into what we really, really desire. And I love that. I love that because then you're vibrating, right? You're living, you're feeling in the place that it's already happened. And it's already happened so much that you're doing the thing after it.
Correct. And again, you can that can be so concise that you can just spin in that feeling over and over again without having to run like a long scenario of surveying the new home or any of that stuff. It's just right to the, oh my God, this is the greatest feeling about all of this right now. And literally it's a great hack.
That is so good. And that's actually a lot of what happens when I do hypnotherapy with people that want to let go of things. We go to that place while they're under, while they're in a hypnotic state of brainwave, and then it's like the amazing program that you've created or technique that you created, the click, right? Can you tell
Mhm.
us about that?
Sure. Well, the click was, I mean, in essence, the click is a process that is designed to eliminate any sort of negative behavior that you have in your life that you suspect is stopping or slowing you, or you know for certain. And it was born out of, it was a completely organic process that came as I was, this was a few years ago, as I went through this process of giving up alcohol. It's not what I sat down to do. It was the result of going through the process where I was just sort of, without getting into all the details of it, but I'm happy to point people to where they can watch the whole thing for free and learn it for free. But it's a process of first getting clear on what was missing from my life. And in this case, I had woken up. It was like January 2nd of 2016. I had spent New Year's Eve alone, and I just felt like, you know what, I consumed too much alcohol during this event. I'm going to take a look at me as a whole. I did not, again, even though that was the spark, I didn't sit down to say, okay, how do I quit alcohol? It wasn't that. But it was about like, well, what's missing from my life? And I saw like this theme of self-care. And then when I started looking at, well, what is the number one thing in where am I lacking in self-care that's probably having the most impact? That's when it was like, all right, well, I guess it's the alcohol. So it was about it was a process of creating a very specific and special kind of pros and cons list, about looking at what are the pros of quitting drinking, which of course there were many, many. I could still be writing that list. And then the cons list is not what are the cons of drinking. The cons are what are the cons of not drinking. So and that's where the magic happens. And that again, that could be any behavior, including self-sabotage. Why do I keep going down to the negative? What do I get out of that? Why do I always, any sort of behavior that you know is stopping you, this will apply to. I just happen to relate it to alcohol. I know somebody else who used it to stop smoking after, however many 30 something years. So it gets you to a point where what in essence happens is you realize that this behavior is costing you your vision, and it gets you to the point where that's unacceptable. Like the vision is so clear, so important, and so everything that your life is about that it now, and when you see on paper as a result of doing that particular way of cons list, you see that every one of those reasons what are the downsides of quitting this behavior are all ego driven. They're desperate cries for, all sorts of, there's no substance to any of them. But in your head, they seem 100% real and rational because that's the nature of your ego. It sounds just like you. It makes sense up there. But when you put it on paper, it's like, it doesn't look so, it's so obvious that you've been ruled by some screaming little kid who doesn't want to change. And it became a lot easier for me to say, oh, so I can't have my vision, which got defined in the first list, and have this behavior. So it became a simple process of, well, then I'm done with it. And I never looked back. And that was after, several years, decades of, of drinking and wine. And I loved it all. But then I just let it go. And it was never hard. It was never a willpower issue. It was just like perspective. That's all.
Wow.
Okay, I get to be the bad guy.
All right, let's hear it.
We've got to go to break.
Oh,
And we're just getting
darn.
started, too. This is getting so good. I hate to be this guy, but we're going to go to break. So we'll be back in about 3 minutes and let Bob pick it up from there. Thank you very much, Bob.
Sure.
What's up, Ricky Dillon here at the largest social media gathering in the world. So the internet is an amazing place, but sometimes it can be a not so great place with online bullying and trolling and stuff. Have you ever seen online bullying before?
Unfortunately, it's kind of common. Online, people can hide behind the internet.
Those comment sections can be a little
harsh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
a good word for it.
I've been called many homophobic names.
I felt embarrassed. I felt humiliated. It made me stop liking myself.
What if I told you there is something that you can use anytime that you see bullying online that calls attention to it in a nice way? Like, hey, that's not nice.
I wish that was the thing.
It's this. So anytime that you see any kind of hate online, go into your phone, go into the symbol section, post this I, and it says that that's bullying. That's not nice. So would you post this if you saw someone bullying someone?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like a lot more mature way to handle the situation.
Find the emoji in your phone, send it to 5 of your friends, and let them know what it means to be a witness.
Go to eyewitnessbullying.org to learn more about the emoji.
The L&M Radio Network has a subscriber chat room for you, the listener. Come interact with your fellow listeners and like-minded people and talk about the shows in a safe environment, from the paranormal to conspiracies and anything else L&M related. All you have to do is go to the lnmradionetwork.com website and click the official chat page button at the top of the homepage. From there, you can sign up for the cost of a cup of coffee. If you're a late-nighter subscriber, the chat room is absolutely free with your subscription. Terms and conditions apply. Then click connect and you'll be able to log into the chat room. We're here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the chat room is both for Studio A and Studio B. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. You're neutral to it. You hear it every time you finish a meal and never feel anything. But if we were able to associate this sound with a new stimulus, save the food, we've achieved pulling a natural response from you. Save the food. Why are we doing this, you may ask? Save the food. Because this ad is trying to change your after-meal behaviour through brainwashing. Because food waste costs the average family $1,500 a year. Save the food. Cha-ching. And $1,500 extra bucks is like getting a pay raise. Save the food. Cha-ching. You're promoted. Which could pay for your child's braces. Save the food. Cha-ching. You're promoted.
Check out my braces.
So when you hear this sound, rethink your behaviour. Cook it, store it, share it. Just don't waste it. For tips and recipes, visit savethefood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
I dare you. I dare you to change the world. Yeah, you. Getting that college education.
I dare you to be somebody important.
Like be a teacher. Or a reality TV star.
I dare you to stand up here.
To call the shots.
To be a role model.
An inspiration.
An innovator.
To be a teacher. Be my teacher.
Think you can change my life?
Make me excited about science like you.
Have a career that really means something?
Then do it.
I dare you. I dare you. I dare you.
I'm waiting.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The L&M Radio Network is the #1 network in the land.
That's a big statement.
Yes, it is. We have the best host with the best guests and the best information.
I agree with that.
As you should. L&M is surrounded by some of the top names in the business.
Of course.
And now you can take advantage by advertising on our station and or shows, or just sponsoring a specific show.
Really?
So go to our website, www.lnmradionetwork.com, and see for yourself what we have to offer. And then contact us at sales@lnmradionetwork.com, or see our contact info on our website, www.lnmradionetwork.com.
We just finished dinner and it was time for homework.
He hates homework.
It makes no sense.
I don't know how he finds anything in his backpack.
I can't find my backpack.
I couldn't even read his handwriting.
Holding the pencil makes my hand hurt.
I know he's bright.
Why is it so hard for me?
He's
I'm
just
trying
gotta
as
try a
hard
little
as
harder.
I can.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. Go to understood.org, a free online resource with support and tools to help your child thrive.
L&M Radio Network, shining in the light of truth, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Sunday Show with Broadcast Team Alpha and our fabulous guest, Bob Doyle. Before we went to break, we were talking about vision, getting your vision, and how to hold your focus to make it happen, to have it take shape in your life. So, Bob, I think Tom has what we call a crayon question. Crayon questions are, when we take our red crayon out, because it's a beginner question, but we love all kinds of questions. So, Tom?
The reason I'm going to ask this is because you're the guy to ask. And I think there are people that need to hear it from you, Bob. So here's the question. There are those out there that say, well, this law of attraction stuff doesn't work. And it's working in that instant. Yeah. Maybe you can kind of go into that a little bit about the very fact that it works, whether we believe it or not.
Well, because, so let me make a very important distinction. So many people have got this law of attraction thing categorized into some sort of personal development tool or a technique, and that is not what this is. It's certainly not how I teach about it. But what's happened is it's gotten packaged up like that, especially post-secret, to make it marketable. And, it's just this is a little trick. Do this 1, 2, 3, and you'll manifest, visualize, be blah, 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 all that. And that can work for some people, but for others, it doesn't. Because the law of attraction, the way that I'm talking about it is again, we're addressing back what we talked about before, which is the universe is an ocean of energy, and something is at play that decides how energy assembles itself into what we are calling our reality, and however it's interpreted in the rest of the universe. But there's laws around how it comes together to form glass or water or plastic. There's information embedded in all of these molecules, and there's rules that it follows, and that's what I'm talking about with the law of attraction. In terms of, we as humans, so it's not about, the law of attraction doesn't exist so that we can manifest a car. But with that, knowing what we know about it, we can utilize what we know to basically, like I said before, assemble matter through our intention. But again, people get very caught up in understanding it, as I did. But once you can get to the point, if you study it enough, or where you can let go of, is this a thing? Then that's all you need to do, so to let go of that resistance. You don't need to worry about how anymore. The only thing, it's staggeringly simple. You just have to know what you want and be able to visualize, in an effective way, in a certain way, for a consistent amount of time, and then just let it show up. It's not about not taking action. You'll definitely take action. You'll definitely be in movement, because it's part of this creation process is energy moving, and you're doing your part. But in terms of getting stuck on how is this going to happen, and we just don't need to know all of that. And that's the hardest. Go ahead.
There's a lot of people, like professional athletes, that have excelled in their field that had nothing to do with The Secret or knowing anything about laws of attraction. They just knew where they wanted to go.
Right. You don't, absolutely. There's no requirement to understand the law of attraction or know it. Now, but it can help, because if a person has basic beliefs that they will never be able to achieve something that's just not for them, well, if they can be told enough of the science, hey, look, this is why it's showing up for you this way. There's some wiring in your brain. If you're willing to create a new vision and have a different conversation with yourself, then all this stuff that's happening energetically will then change, and your experience of reality will change. That's, it's basically just getting them to change how they're being. And if you can, point to some sort of a science piece or whatever, and that'll let them be open to it, then great. But no, you don't have to have an understanding. You just have to do what you need to do.
Right. But sometimes we block it, right? Because of habits. I mean, let's just say that we were environmentally challenged by our family, which a lot of people could consider that they are. You're brought up in a family, and you recognize later that you didn't really share the same values and the same goals. But because we were brought up in that environment, we habitually play out certain behaviors, right? So there's a process, or what is the process when those behaviors show up? Because if it were as easy as me going, I'm just going to get up today and I'm going to do everything that I want to do, which is more of what I'm doing, but I would say that, and then something would happen, right? I'd have a thought that would take me down that old,
Right.
that old road of thinking, and
Yep.
then that thought would amplify, and then I'm creating from that point of attraction.
Right. So observation of that is the first step, right? But knowing that, look, you're just responding that way because of neurological wiring. That's just your current programming. There's no truth to the negative things that you're telling yourself, right? There's no except that you're giving it meaning, and you're doing it because it's automatic. It's the program that you're running. But you can always override that program as long as you don't allow yourself the luxury of indulging in it. So
Yes.
that's the piece that's the hardest, because you're creating totally new neural pathways, and your ego and your whole body knows what it feels like to bask in that negative thinking. It's that feels so good bad thing. It's like you'd rather it not happen, but and it's just like you're literally swimming in body chemistry of being so right about how bad everything is or whatever. I mean, that's it is. It's literally an addiction. So you have to replace it with something else. And so just like any other addiction, you have to change wiring. So it's persistence. So once you make the decision, like you realize, okay, this is costing me. This way of thinking, this habitual way of thinking is absolutely costing me my vision. I'm going to replace it with something else, no matter how clunky it feels at first. And, oh, by the way, what if it could be easy? What if I was a version of Nori where this was so easy to do? I just let go of it because I could see it wasn't serving me. What if it could happen right away? How would she be responding in the same situation? So it really can be quicker than we think. Just because we've been told over and over again that this is going to take a long time and all of that, it doesn't necessarily have to. There is going to be time involved, but you don't have to assume any piece of transformation is going to be hard, or it's going to be tough, or you're not going to be able to handle it emotionally. If you set that up as a precedent, you probably live right into that.
Right.
But what if you could be happy? What if it could be a joyous return to your natural self, you're exactly how you're supposed to be? What if that could just be an easy journey? You could just say goodbye to all that other stuff, and just with a decision.
Right. So that means that when you break up with somebody, you don't have to lay on the couch for a week, and eat ice cream out of the container, right? You can do it differently. You don't have to do that. And that may seem like you should feel guilty about not doing that whole, dramatic grief thing, but you don't have to do that. And you don't have to do that about big things too, right? Like if you walk away from, your $1 million corporate job because it just doesn't feel good anymore. And you don't have to go down the road that you imagined, like the boogeyman is going to get you if you walk away from that corporate job, right? The boogeyman doesn't come, and what really does come is that you discover that the you that you've always wanted to be is free to be in expression.
If listeners get nothing more than what you just said, then I mean it's hugely valuable. We don't have to respond in any particular way, positive or negative, but why not choose positive? Why not figure out, let's use every negative situation as an opportunity, as a puzzle. How can I make a positive out of this? We do not have to go down there. We've been taught that we should. We've been taught that it's appropriate, and so we've done it, and now it's habitual. But we do not have to. We don't have to give up our power in that way. We're conscious beings, and we're acting so unconsciously sometimes because we're not aware. We were never taught how to become aware of what we're thinking, to be conscious of the decisions we're making, whether or not they're serving us, whether they're based in truth or not. We don't know how to assess the situation. We get caught up in whatever everybody else is doing, or we just go with some gut emotion, which could be guided by some really wacky wiring that you got along the way in your journey. We just don't know how to get conscious. And the more that we do, though, obviously there's, I think we can agree that it seems that humanity is at least beginning to sort of open themselves up to other levels of conscious conversation, although we still have a long way to go, but we have choices. We have so many more choices than we're making.
It sounds like we actually are attracting energy and people that is in harmony with us, and that energy that we're attracting includes money. So we need to design what we want and then work towards that. And maybe, I know you mentioned this a little bit, but I'm not sure that it rang totally clear for me. How would we go about changing our output energy to attract what we want?
Well, okay, so it all starts, we could easily overcomplicate this.
Yeah.
If you know what you want, the only thing you really have to do is to take that time when you can visualize and get into the feeling of it and block everything else out and really experience it on every sensory level in your imagination. That's why we have our imagination. And then when you're not doing that until you really it feels real. And then when you're not doing that, walk and talk and act and speak and be and do all of it as if that was the case, and be looking for things to show up for you to implement. It's the action to take. We don't have to figure out the hows. We just have to know what we want to feel. And we're going to get stuck if we try to figure out, well, what's the exact frequency I'm supposed to put out? Nobody needs to know a number or a frequency. How do you want to feel? That's all you have to dial into, right? Okay. So it's that, because look, otherwise people, because as was pointed out, there are plenty of successful people out there who have no clue what the law of attraction is. They're just naturally in alignment with receiving what they're receiving. They're clear on who they're being, and the rest of the universe is in alignment with who they're being. The value they put on this.
It's kind of like when you're looking down the highway. If you look right in front of your car, you're going to weave all over the road, but you need to look towards as far away as possible down the road. And then it seems like everything just kind of rolls into where it's supposed to be.
Well, does
that make sense?
But the other way is true too. Like sometimes you don't know what the path is down there. You know what the outcome is. Yes, you're headed in the right direction. Your GPS is taking you, but you don't necessarily know how the GPS is going to take you, right? Like sometimes you get detoured and you weren't expecting it. It doesn't mean you're not going to get there. It means that this is the way we need to go, whether you understand it or not, to get us there. So you just got to really trust that process. And so whatever comes up for you, just take action as it's presented, and just never be in doubt that you're headed in the right direction. In terms of the money conversation, because I feel like we haven't really addressed it directly, it's not like any, I mean, it's just, what I was going to say was, it's not any different than anything else you want to attract. It is just like everything else, except that we've got a lot of stuff tied up into it. We've got a lot of emotional energy around it. But again, money is a means to an end, and I'm saying focus on the end.
Yeah.
Because if the end is, if part of your end is feeling abundant, okay, then focus on that, not how you got the abundance, okay? Now, obviously, I'm a huge proponent for doing what you love out there and getting value for it. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. You know, we could talk on a business level about how to package up your value and put it out there in the world and let people see you. But all of those things that are going to come to you are probably going to come to you most efficiently and be most effective as a result of you doing this exercise of literally getting into that feeling of having it now. It's so basic. It feels almost weirdly full circle for me to be talking at this level after 20 years, to go back to the very basic stuff, because I spent so much time going down this road of complexity or this scientific whatever, but it all leads right back to the same place. You have to do this. You have to just, all you have to do is visualize, feel it, and know it's coming. Now, that whole knowing it's coming, that's the leap, right? That's the, how do we know that, Bob? That seems like magical thinking. And I totally get that, which is why I think I focused so much of my career on the science piece, so it wouldn't seem so magical. I'm just going to invite everybody who either has or has not read The Science of Getting Rich. You know, I'd read it and I glossed right through it 16 years ago. When I read it yesterday, it was life-changing, seriously. And there's such basic truths on all this, and it's not overcomplicated. Every sentence is gold. You could, like Bob Proctor has, made a lifetime of study out of it. But if you just do it, right, without the questioning and without all the, but what about, no, it's all covered. Just know what you want. And that comes from knowing who you want to be the most. What version of you is the most empowering, the most expressive, the most abundant, the most creative, the most playful, the most loving that you can possibly create, and design it and see that person going through your day, doing whatever that person does, and do that all the time. And you cannot avoid it happening.
That makes it simple.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
That makes it is so simple, but I'm going to be, devil's advocate. But people are living their lives, right? So when I was in San Diego, Christy Whitman had her QSCA, and she had the QSB, Quantum Success in Business gathering, and you had to show up the way that you were going to be in 5 years. That gives you license to step into who you want to be and how you want to show up. So in that setting, it's a lot easier. But when you're working in your job and people are accustomed to you showing up in a certain way, and suddenly you show up, right, with your unbridled sweetness and creativity and humor, you're going to get a little bit of feedback.
You
right?
could get a lot, and that's
Right.
obviously, that's a huge, I mean, that comes up all the time. I devote so much time in my coaching to, that's basically relationships.
Yeah.
That's basically how does the dynamic change with the people in your life when you take on something bigger? And yes, it can be complete upheaval, and it can be some of the most difficult. Again, a lot of the difficulty we attach to these ending of relationships is because we've put meaning on them that we've learned from how we're supposed to be in relationships, what we learned in TV and movies and other value systems that don't really have anything to do with logic. The parental relationship is a huge one, because we all know that there's a point in our lives when our parents, if they run up against their own limiting beliefs, they're going to start projecting them on you, and they will do everything they can to keep you in a place where they're comfortable with you, and they are no longer a stand for you becoming who you are. And they kept you alive, they gave you some core values, they did their job, but at the point where they now are limiting what your soul is calling you to be, their job is done, and you don't need to feel bad about that. You don't need to have guilt around that. And it's the same thing with any other relationship. You are evolving. We all have the opportunity to evolve and become whoever we want. We are beholden to no one to play small. That serves no one. Why would we adjust our potential and our vision so that somebody who does not share that vision for themselves can be more comfortable? You're going to eventually move on from these people. They will become irrelevant to you as you own that vibration more, and you will then appropriately attract the people who support, delight, and celebrate this new you, because you were with those other people because you were appropriately vibrating with them at that time. So it was fine that they were there. It made sense that they were there. Now you're being something else. They're going to go away. And during that process, it could be bumpy, but it depends on you to make meaning out of it. How involved are you going to get? How much are you going to let no matter how bad they feel, no matter how guilty they try to make you feel, are you going to let that stop you from living the rest of your life that you're called to live so that they can be more comfortable?
Right. Amazing. And this is a main reason why other than being a coach, why I recommend that people have a coach like you, spend time with you, do a half a day with you, or spend time with any coach, because you can get through it by yourself eventually, but it's a lot easier when all of a sudden relationships blow up and I could go to Bob and go, Bob, the bottom just fell out of my life. What just happened? And then he can have the conversation with me that he just had with everybody here. And then it's so much easier to stay on track and to stay focused.
Well, we're not meant to do this by ourselves. That's a ridiculous myth that somehow seemed to maybe get propagated after The Secret with the whole genie in the lamp thing. I don't know, but there's 7 billion of us for a reason. We're here to support each other, lift each other up, form communities, do amazing things together, and to see in each other what we cannot see for ourselves. And that's what coaching is.
Oh, I love that. Bob, how can people find you?
So my main site, I guess, would be boundlesslivingcoaching.com. We talked about the click, and if they want to look at that and go through that whole process, like I said, the whole process is there for giving up, behavior that doesn't serve you. That's boundlesslivingcoaching.com/theclick. So that should be fairly easy. And I'm all over Facebook. I mean, look, I'm the easiest person on the internet to find.
And that's part of the beauty. I mean, because you're still like, Bob Doyle, The Secret, but you're so accessible and you're so down to earth. And thank you so much for being here with us. We've got about 3 minutes left, and I'm just so grateful to have spent this time with you, and just for everything that you've shared with everybody. And people can find Bob Doyle, boundlessliving.com, and all over Facebook. So I highly recommend that you connect with Bob. Thank you, Bob.
Very much. It's my pleasure. I'm always happy to play with you, Nori.
Yay! I'm going to come to Vegas to see you.
It's out there now. That's a promise.
Yay. Thanks, everybody. Aage, Tom, thank you so much. Katie, thank you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, broadcastteamalpha.com, and please, L&M Radio Networks, give a donation, because without you, there is no us. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week on the next Sunday show.
Thank you.